Why hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings, and I am your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield as always. And today on a LOTRO adventure, we're doing some quests for Durin, for the War of Three Peaks expansions, right? On this LOTRO adventure, and we are going to head over to Erebor to turn in this quest. So basically, we're bringing some letters and parcels from Durin and a lot of the dwarves over to King Thorin Stonehelm III. Again, this is not the Thorin that some of you might be thinking, oh, is that the Thorin from the Hobbit? No, this is a different Thorin. Alright, so we're here. We have a cool new mount. We have our actual gear that we're really wearing, which actually looks pretty darn cool. Look at this cool cape and cool mount, and oh man, we are looking really, really, really cool, you guys. It's pretty fun. Alright, so we're gonna run straight down this. I hope you're having a great and wonderful day in Middle-earth, my friends. I've been, over the last few episodes, I've been slowly eating up this watermelon. Yes, I have a giant half a watermelon here. I've just been slowly carving it up. A true hobbit. Delicious. We are here. Lord
Welcome, my adventurous friend.
Welcome,
What news
Zollin.
do you bring of Durin?
It has
fares his campaign.
It has been some time since Glowin sent message ravens arrived, bearing a warning that the line of Azog remains unbroken in Gundabad. What news do you bring of my son? How fares his campaign? You inform King Thorin of the events and that transpired since he sent the remnants of the Iron Garrison to Anak Kurfru. You do tell the tale of the battle of the threshold of Gundabad, of Gorgar's near defeat, and of the sudden danger of Hrimur Frostheart, returned from the anvil of Winter Tilth. Excuse me. You also tell King Thorin of Durin's desire to press the attack, and how he has persuaded against it, at least for the moment, by Nain and the dwarves of Karum Umbnar. I fear you have had bearing ill tidings, my friend, so long as my son is well. It puts my heart at ease. Thorin glances at the mass of letters and parcels you have brought to Erebor. I appreciate that you answered me as swiftly as you did, but please, set all of that down. My subjects will see that they are delivered to the proper dwarves here in the Lonely Mountain. As for his let us see what he has written. Missive, huh? There's your word of the day, everyone. Something for letter, I believe.
Tell me, how did my son come to change his mind, truly?
A moment, my friend. King Thorin reads the missive from Durin. I see. Tell me, Zollin, how did my son come to change his mind, truly? You tell King Thorin of Glowin's concern and his suggestion to speak to the dwarves of Karun Umnar among the Kabil Akar. It was that reason I sent them, and I am heartened that Glowin warned him against plans born of vengeance. I only wish my son had headed his words during leads the greatest Longbeard army we have brought to bear in 70 years. But he is still young and, in truth, untested. Yes, he has found victory at many stops along his journey from the Iron Hills, but it is the hardship that shapes a dwarf. Durin was fortunate to know my father Dane in his time. He, too, was young when he answered the call of war, and I often wonder what he would think of how swiftly Durin has grown into his name. Oh, thoughts of Dane. This is his father.
What can be said of my father Dain that has not been etched into the very history of Durin's folk?
As he mentioned about Danes, Thorin's voice softens. what can be said of my father Dane that has not been etched into the very history of Durin's folk? He was but a stripling when he slew the great orc Azog at this one always gets me. Azanun Bilzar. It was he who answered the call of Thorin Oakenshield and defended the Lonely Mountain against Bolg and the goblins of the north, and in so doing unsheared in a time of peace between men, elves, and dwarves. And again, when the enemy sent his servants to the great gates of the Lonely Mountain, he died in defense of his people, a hero to his last breath. But despite all of his deeds, I knew him as my father. I was his son, Durin, his beloved grandson. I must confess that I often saw more of Dane in Durin than I did in myself. But what greater dwarf could one aspire to be? Alright, and then here's you talking about thoughts about his son. He's talking about his son. As his thoughts turn to Durin, Thorin's voice swells. I have always been more cautious of Dane's sons, and it has served me well, but for too long I believed it would suit Durin in much the same manner. It was not so long ago that I sequestered Durin in the Iron Hills while battling raged in the Dalelands, but now my son leads an army to reclaim the mountain home. I dared not dream that Gundabad might be within reach, especially after the failure of the Iron Garrison, and yet my son has proven its possibility, both to me and to all of Durin's folk. Durin is not as hot-tempered as my brother, nor is he as measured as his father. He is himself, and that is enough. Durin will, as any dwarf will in his time, but I did not name him Durin that he would earn the name in his life. The name will earn him through his deeds. Interesting.
Durin has requested that I send a new mustard to the mountain hall, but so too does he ask for my guidance. That has given me much to consider.
It is true that many dwarves of the Iron Garrison pledged themselves into the service of my son, and more still journeyed from our holdings in the Misty Mountains to aid the Galbil Akar. Even so, there are many Longbeards. Longbeards and trustworthy dwarves of the Lantorim and the Narfangoth that might still be called upon. Durin has requested that I send a new muster to the mountain home. It will be done. Thorin pauses for a moment and strokes his beard. But so, too, does my son ask for my guidance, and that has given me much to consider.
My son asks my guidance in winning a war.
I may not be a warrior in the manner of my father, Zollin, but I know well enough that those of Karum Umbna learned such lessons long ago. After all, it was Dane who organized the Karum Umbna after the war's end. It was to be comprised of those who survived the Sixth War, and those descended from Marasar and the burned dwarves of Azanu Bazaar. Agnar, Lagi, and Rifvald are not the only dwarves of that order who still dwell within the Lonely Mountain, my friend. Perhaps their wisdom might be of use to my son. Thorin thinks for a moment, and stroking his beard, after a moment he produces a small scrap of paper and writes upon it in a short message. Alright. Within the dwelling halls of Tumendum, there is an older hall of the Karum Umbnar. It is also known among Dwarven's folk as Akron Zaharn, and there you might find a dwarf named Herseg. She is barely beyond the age of a stripling, but it's a funny terminology. There's another word of the day, my friends. But she is the granddaughter of one of the greatest heroes of Azun Bazaar, and more importantly, one of the dearest friends of my father, Dane. I have written her a note asking that she might introduce you to the works of her grandfather, Hermeth Stormhammer. She, too, is well studied in the lore of Durin's folk, possessing wisdom beyond her years. Deliver this missive to her, and she will understand what I ask. Wow, that's pretty cool story plot there. Finally stopped having a little bit of stutter talking there for the last 2 paragraphs. I had to really focus. I had to really focus in on my voiceovers while I was reading. It's really hard sometimes to do it on the spot. Again, I know this playlist isn't really my focused on voiceover playlist, but still, it can be a lot of work. All right, travel to aid King Thorin. All right. All right. In dwelling halls. Okay, this is the dwelling halls here in Erebor. All right. Let's do it. Let's do that one real quick. Lolly, lolly. Enter the dwelling halls, which are right over here. Yeah, right over there. Welcome to the great dwelling halls of Erebor. Alright, up these stairs, and I believe she wants up here. And then we go in here. And now that we're in here, there should be someone to talk to. Oh, there's Nah. As you enter, a familiar dwarf greets you.
I heard you followed Prince Durin in his quest. Was that not so?
Zollin, what brings you back to the Lonely Mountain? I heard you followed Prince Durin in his quest. Was that not so? You explained to Frithgar that you have returned at Durin's request to seek the aid of King Thorin. Again, we will have this if you jump back to my LOTRO tale later. We will know who this person is more. Just a little side note. So we'll do more a lot of the main storylines on LOTRO tale. I see. Well, do not let me keep you, my friend. For my part, I was just about to take Nar home. It has been a long day, and although he was more himself this morning, his mind has wandered. Perhaps Nar might wish you to tell well in your quest, but I can make no promises. Nar? So this dwarf is very, very old. Hail. Nar snuffles for a moment, but it's clear. Ah, hello! You look an awful like a dwarf I met long ago in Zagrundun. I do hope they are well. But we must be going, yes? I do hope Harvin makes his stew tonight.
Wherever Prince Durin's quest might lead you, I hope you take care of yourself, my friend.
Thank you, Zollin. It means a great deal to me, and I know it does Nar good to see his friends. Perhaps we will see you when next you return to the Lonely Mountain. That's a cute little, like... After a moment, Ferna and Narp depart. Okay.
Gundabad will be ours once more.
Welcome, Zollin. I don't think this is the main quest right here, so I'm just going to accept that. He's got more quests we could do here for level 140 to earn tokens for this place. But across the dimly lit hall, you spot a young dwarf. Ah, there she is. Okay.
A missive from King Thorin? I do hope this isn't about the cave claws again.
Welcome,
Last time
Zollin.
was an accident. I swear it.
I swear it. Welcome, Zollin. What business have you with the Karum Umbra? You explain that you have been sent by King Thorin to deliver a missive to Hergseg, which is her name. A missive from King Thorin? I do hope this isn't about the cave claws again. Last time I was an accident, I swear it.
Let me see what all this is about.
Let me see what all this is about. Hergseg looks over the missive from King Thorin. Her bushy eyebrows raise and lower a few times until finally she lets out what seems to be a sigh of relief. Well, that wasn't what I expected. I must apologize for my curt introduction, Zollin. I am Hergseg, and I tend to Azak Sahar on behalf of the Karum Nar. As for that missive, it seems Thorin wishes for me to introduce you to the works of my grandfather, Hermath Stormhammer. He kept a detailed account of his experience in the Sixth War of the Dwarves and Orcs, especially the Battle of Azad-nul Bizarre. In the fact, a collection of his volumes are right over here. There, although I am sure Prince Durin has heard tales of that war before, the king insists your study of it will be the use of the son of to his son and the Gabil Akar. But there's no use studying the battle without hearing the beginning of the tale, I say. King Thorin has given me a task of my own, but since I have a little time, I'd be honored to read it to you. So, what you say?
So you wish to hear the tale of Nar?
Of Nar, of course. As a proud dwarf, you must already know it well. Ah, you wish to hear it. My grandfather's transcribed it, I see. Ah, but first, Hergseg glares around Azkar Akzra Az-Zahar, making careful note of the dwarves still present. Ah, good. It seems Frigith has taken him home. Nar is an old dwarf, and though it is no fault of his own, he is often forgetful and confused in his mind. It is as if the stones of a great mosaic was scattered upon the floor, and all of the pieces remain in some form or another, but what it once depicted is lost. Even so, neither I nor anyone else in this hall would tell the tale in his presence. Hergseg lifts a small volume from her hip and flips through its pages, stepping at one page in particular. Let us begin.
When you are ready, I will begin.
The tale. All right, well, let's do it. We have time. Ooh, look at
Although he has at last found comfort amongst Durin's folk at the Lonely Mountain, the dwarf Nar has been witness to much hardship and tragedy throughout his long life.
I like this effect that they're showing this as a story. It's almost like a black and white effect. Like a...
Long after the rain of Nar had fallen to the cold gray village, and 20 years after the Lonely Mountain,
something's happening. Like... that is, way too loud. Enable NPC color text for, let's see, I'm just really quickly gonna see, like, hands-free. Wanted to see if there was a way I could, like, change that, because that was really loud and could not understand what she was saying. There's like a weird echo effect that's almost too much. Long after the realm of Garrick had fallen to the Coldrakes of Vethug, and 20 years after the Lonely Mountain fell to Smog, King Thror and his folk came to dwell in a combe near the wilds of Dunland. From the old stronghold of Zudrun Gund, Thror ruled what remained of the two kingdoms. He had fled in his life. His son was Thrain, a formidable warrior. His grandson Thorin and Frerin and his granddaughter Dis were yet young. His people were young, poor, and hungry, and they knew little joy since the loss of their homes in the north. Dotag and the gloom took their toll on the King Thror, and he thought long of regaining the splendor of his father's halls. But it was not in the halls of Erebor where Smog now slumbered upon the heirlooms of his people, nor the frozen wastes in the north that called to him. It was Khazad-dûm itself. It had been more than 100 years since doom befell it, since the elves named it Moria, but it mattered not. Thror determined that he would reclaim it, and in so doing, restore the glory of his kingdom and Durin's folk. What true reason had he? None from that now certain. All right.
Yet in his hand, Lord desire.
That is something's glitching out with that sound. But whenever the case he summoned Thrain and gave him what heirlooms of their house remained, chief among them his ring, last of the 7 that had been given to the dwarf kings. He said to Thrain, riches may yet spring anew from this Babel, my son, or perhaps not, yet one cannot breed gold with gold. When Thrain asked if his intent was to return to Erebor, Thror remained silent. After a long moment, he said, these bones are too old. I will not be avenged on Smaug. That fate, perchance, shall be yours or your sons. I have known too much of loss and the men's derision. There's another word of the day. I go to seek better fortunes, if they may yet be found. All in Zingibur bade farewell to Thror, though they knew not that... Gosh, it's so messed up. Wait him, he took a single compass, nor his friend in Squeld of old, and that is where our tale begins. Oh. Together Thror and Gnar went north. Well, you guys, I'm going to do a cutoff here. I'll see you guys in the next episode. In Old Eregion, whatever you like to say, Thror insisted against the west gate, and 2 continued northward. After a time, they crossed the Redhorn Pass and descended into Azanul Bazaar. In the dwarf's absence, it had become unfamiliar and lands. There's Gnar and there's Thror. Okay, this is the old dwarf. The dale had fallen silent, and the remains of the Great Way was choked with undergrowth. Yet there, beyond the brambles and bushes, laid Thorin's prize, the last kingdom of Khazad-dûm. Alright, my friends, well, I'm going to end it there for this episode today. I will see you guys in the next episode of Voice of the Rings. Thanks to my subscribers for your support. There's the subscribe button if I earned it. Next episode will be right up there. We'll start right where we left off. And a LOTRO Tales over there too, my other content. So you guys have a wonderful day in Middle-earth, and I'll see you on the next episode of Voice of the Rings. Baruch Khazad Kuzad, I menu.